Salut mes amis dans la France. My name is Janne Vuononvirta and I'm the General Secretary of the Theosophical Society in Finland. My topic today is meditation and modern science, healing the mind. As you know, meditation has had an important role in the life of a mystic since ancient times, especially in Asia. It is a way to cleanse the mind from all impurities and imperfection that prevent the light of our true nature to shine into our consciousness. It is a way to calm the mind and find inner peace. During the past decades, science has also become more and more interested in the practice of meditation in various fields such as medicine, education, and even economics. Dear friends, in this lecture, I try to show how the ancient art of meditation and modern science have met together, how the teachings of the wisdom tradition have become today's evidence-based medicine. Particularly, I will try to show what a huge value meditation can have in the field of psychiatry, how the science of meditation has started an actual paradigm shift. The modern psychiatry is no longer just prescribing pills or talk therapy. It is teaching patients mindfulness skills that they can use to help themselves to relieve depression and anxiety, to resolve their emotional knots and find more calm and inner peace. Especially Buddhist tradition has given a great contribution to the science. The heart of the Buddhist meditation is mindfulness, which has become the source of secular forms of meditation. In secular meditation, forms of the religious aspects belonging to Buddhism are stripped away. The practices are adapted for Western people, making meditation more accessible for many. However, in these secular forms of meditation, the practice is kept the same. In scientific context, mindfulness is depicted as a process of openly attending with our awareness to one's experience in the present moment. As such, mindfulness is not Buddhism. It is a systematic training and refinement of attention and awareness, compassion and wisdom, putting in action the universal innate potentialities of a human being. In the West, meditation has slowly become more popular since the 1960s, when the first Buddhist refugees, for example, from Vietnam and Tibet, started to arrive in Europe and in America. On the same time, the hippie movement was growing. Of course, there has been people practicing meditation even before that, for example, within the Theosophical Society. But they have been marginal groups, not big masses, as today. The trend for meditation remained quite small till the end of the century. However, the situation now is quite different. For instance, in the United States, 10% of the people report meditating regularly, and the numbers are increasing every year. For that, we can thank the substantial research on meditation that has been going on for this millennia, for 2 decades now. The scientific research on mindfulness meditation has grown exponentially in just 2 decades. If you type mindfulness in PubMed database that focuses on medical research, you can find nearly 3,000 studies published in 2020, whereas in 1990 there were only 63 publications. We can thank Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn for introducing mindfulness to the scientific community. He launches his mindfulness-based stress reduction program in 1979. It was targeted for those people who suffered chronic stress or constant pain due to some medical condition and whose suffering could not be alleviated enough through the means of modern medicine. Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn has his personal background in Zen Buddhism. He based the practices of Zen Buddhism of his program on Zen Buddhism, but he managed to introduce mindfulness to Westerners in a way that was easy to start with. His program was secular and it made sense to the common people and scientists alike. The program was standardized, which made it possible to study its effect in a scientific context. It is an 8-week program where the attendants meet weekly for 2 hours. The meetings focus on practicing, not talking. In addition, the attendants are expected to practice 1 hour daily at home, usually with the help of recorded meditation sessions. Thanks to the careful scientific approach, Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn was able to show the benefits of meditation, and soon other mindfulness interventions and therapeutic settings were developed. In the late 80s, psychologist Marsha M. Linehan combined cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness, creating dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, to treat patients with borderline personality disorder. Before that, borderline patients were considered almost impossible to treat. They had strong emotions but weak coping mechanisms to regulate them, leading in other problems such as depression, addiction disorders, self-harm, and suicide. When they received dialectical behavior therapy, a miracle happened. Patients started to heal, and nowadays DBT has become the gold standard of treatment for borderline personality disorder. Since that, the progress has been rapid. More and more mindfulness interventions for different purposes have been developed, tested scientifically, and found useful. The beginning of the 21st century has seen the blooming of so-called third wave of cognitive therapies, and all of them utilized mindfulness. In addition to the two above mentioned, the third wave of cognitive therapies include mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, mindfulness-based relapse prevention, metacognitive therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, and compassion-focused therapy. Many of them not only utilize mindfulness, but make use of other aspects of Buddhist philosophy and psychology also. There is a fast-growing body of evidence showing that mindfulness is useful in the treatment of various medical conditions. Mindfulness may reduce pain and stress and fatigue in people with chronic pain. It may boost the immune system, help people recover more quickly from cold or flu, and improve outcomes in other stress-related conditions such as psoriasis, irritable bowel syndrome, diabetes, and even HIV. More findings are coming all the time, especially in the field of psychiatry. It seems that mindfulness is effective for reducing stress, anxiety, and depression. It can help people with specific problems including insomnia, smoking, other addictions, and ADHD. Mindfulness meditation has been shown to affect how the brain works and even its structure. For example, the prefrontal cortex, that is associated with positive emotion, is generally less active in people who are depressed, whereas people who practice meditation show increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, hinting that they experience more positive emotions. Also, areas of the brain linked to the emotional regulation are larger in people who have meditated on a regular basis for 5 years or more. The most promising research has looked at the people with depression. It has been found out that mindfulness-based cognitive therapy can significantly reduce relapse for depression. Let's investigate this in more detail. Depression is a common medical condition affecting more than 264 million people worldwide. The core symptoms of depression are depressed mood, fatigue, and loss of interest. Other symptoms include difficulties in sleep, memory, and concentration. Feelings of guilt, inferiority, and loss of appetite, to mention a few. Suicidal thoughts are common, and sadly, sometimes people affected with depression end up in this desperate solution. Depression causes great suffering and poor function at work, at school, and in the family. During the past years, depression has become one of the most common causes for early retirement due to sickness. There is an ongoing debate whether depression is becoming more common, or is it just the work life where more and more is required from the workers, so that the people suffering from depression cannot cope with it anymore. Periods of depressive mood affect nearly everyone sometimes. When we talk about the diagnosis of depression, the minimum time of the period of depressive mood is 2 weeks. Shorter periods than that are considered as a normal part of life. The first depressive episode usually arises when the person faces difficulties or obstacles in life. That the difficulties activate certain unhealthy ways of thinking and other non-adaptive coping mechanisms. To illustrate this, think about the person who loses his job. People react in a different way. Someone might be even happy for getting a chance to relax for a moment. Another one might worry how to get enough money, and to help himself he starts to look for a new job right away. Third person might start to criticize himself being a failure. He loses his courage and is afraid that he would make a fool of himself again. You can guess which one of these examples you can guess in which one of these examples the person gets depression. It is often said that it's not the things itself that cause how we feel, but the meaning we give to the things that happen. This is true, and the meanings we give is one target of the treatment. For example, in cognitive behavior therapy of depression, where this is called the ABC model. A meaning the thing, B meaning the meaning we give, and C is the result. So, to illustrate this, in the last example, the person thinks that he is a failure. And therefore he feels depressed. But if you think about the first example, the person thinks that, oh, this is a good chance to chill, so he feels relaxed. However, quite often people are not very well aware of their reactions, automatic thoughts, emotions, or bodily sensations. But through training, we can learn to recognize this, and we can learn to act in a more wholesome way. Usually the first episodes of depression last just a few months. The problem of depression is the high risk for recurrence. In more than 50% of the cases, the person gets depression again. If you have had 2 episodes of depression, there is a 60% risk that you will get a 3rd episode. And if you have had 3 episodes of depression, the risk for the 4th one is 90%. during the life course, the depressive episodes start to live their own life. They may get longer, and it is possible that the person doesn't fully recover in between the episodes. The main treatment for depression is medication and psychotherapy. Besides that, there are many things that are helpful. There are ways how patients can help themselves. It is important to take care of good sleep if you have depression, and even if you don't, this is still useful. It is a good idea to maintain a steady diurnal rhythm and try to sleep 7 to 8 hours every night. Eat regularly, from 4 to 6 times a day. Exercise at least 2 hours a week. Avoid alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Sometimes people drink alcohol to make them feel better, but this effect is only momentary. On the long run, alcohol makes things worse. It can worsen the depressive symptoms and obstruct the benefits of treatment. Besides these pieces of advice, try to do things that are meaningful to you, and try to be kind towards yourself, even if it's hard. Despite of that, we have ways to help. It's not that uncommon that the usual treatment is not effective enough. Therefore, new ways of treatment are needed. What happens in the mind when the depression returns? Depression leaves a mark, a scar, in the brain. When a trigger, it can be something benign, just as a photo from the difficult period. That trigger activates the depression memories and the mood decreases. This in turn awakens negative automatic thinking, which decreases mood even more. Rumination and overthinking fill the mind with harmful thoughts, such as, my life shouldn't be like this, why this keeps happening to me, or what's wrong with me. This leads to stagnation in mind. Grey clouds surround the person. In some studies, researchers have counted that around 70,000 thoughts rush through our consciousness in a day. Usually we recognize just a few of them. At times we try to push some thoughts and emotions away if we consider them as bad, and other times we merge and identify with our thoughts and emotions, thinking, this is I. We pass through the day on an automatic drive, not really noticing what is happening in us and around us. In depression, mind is full of memories of loss and failure, negative thoughts about oneself, about others, and about the future. This is called the negative cognitive triad. Person with depression criticizes and blames himself. He feels down and sad. due to his worries, he doesn't sleep well anymore. He is tired during the day and starts to avoid things he used to like. And by doing so, he is missing all the good things which might bring him joy. And this is how the depression gets worse and worse. In the beginning, when one engages in meditation and begins to watch his mind, he realizes in an instant that mind is full of noise. Thousands of thoughts, feelings, desires and wishes fill the inner space. And he can see that 90% of these thoughts are fluttering around one thing, himself. These constant self-centered thoughts and emotions form a barrier which imprisons the consciousness. Everything that he sees is colored and biased by this barrier. This barrier breaks the connection with others and with the world around oneself. By practicing mindfulness, a person can learn to observe what is happening in his mind and in his body. He becomes aware of his thoughts and emotions. He can learn to name them and let them come and go. When a person learns that thoughts and feelings come and go, he doesn't have to try to block them or to keep them away. Neither does he identify with the feelings as he might have done before. This way, he can break the vicious circle of depression. The grey clouds can fade away. Why does mindfulness work so well in psychiatry? In psychiatric disorders, it is easy to see how mind creates the illusion, how unmindful one can be. The person isn't aware how he is building the depression himself. The person isn't aware how he is building the depression himself. That how he is digging the grave deeper than it needs to be. Quite often depression appears after some setbacks in life. Setbacks in life, physical pain and emotional pain, are inevitable in life. This is the first arrow the Buddha speaks about. The second arrow one shoots himself, reacting to the first arrow in non-constructive ways. This is how pain becomes suffering. To recover from depression, one needs to stop digging the grave and start to live again. Do things that have value for oneself. Restore the lost connection with close ones. Learn problem-solving skills. Quit unhealthy problem-solving methods, for example drinking, etc. However, without proper mindset, the change can be difficult. The practice of mindfulness can create the space in mind that is needed to change. However, meditation is not for everyone. Regardless of its many benefits, mindfulness isn't some kind of panacea that cures all diseases. To learn to meditate, it takes a lot of work and time. And after one has learned the basics, a lot of effort is needed to keep up the practice. When you are in crisis or seriously ill, it's not the time to learn something new. In those times, you use what skills and coping strategies you already know. If you are suffering severe depression at the moment, this is not the time to start practicing meditation. You must wait till you have recovered. Then mindfulness can help you. Then you can learn the skills that prevent you from falling back to depression again. Besides the patients, practicing meditation is useful for the therapist and healthcare professionals also. According to studies, the practice of mindfulness helps therapists to stay more in the present moment when they meet their clients. They are more skillful at noting their own internal processes, which helps them not to fall into reactivity themselves. It is easier for them to maintain a positive attitude even amidst of negativity. Practicing meditation can give us the ability to look more with the heart. It helps us to be more accepting and less judgmental. It can build curious interest and readiness to approach new things without preconceptions. Of course, the good effects of practice mentioned above do not limit to healthcare professionals. They are valuable skills, and whoever has them can do more good in his environment. He can become a force of goodness for all people around him. Sometimes people ask, what is the difference between mindfulness intervention used in medical or other secular forms of meditation and spiritual meditation? The practices are quite similar, but the purpose is different. Medical mindfulness is used to alleviate suffering in this life, to treat medical conditions and improve the quality of life, whereas spiritual meditation aims to slay the layer and lead the disciple to the world of the real. By meditation, a spiritual practitioner can purify his mind and find out who he really is. It is good to note that these aims do not contradict each other, but they are on a different level. First one is for this lifetime, and the second one is for the lifetimes to come also. According to Lao Tzu, if you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present. This summarizes well the current scientific evidence on mindfulness. The wisdom of the sage of the old has become evidence-based medicine. This talk has been a short presentation how meditation has entered into the field of medicine, especially in the treatment of depression. Mindfulness has many other applications too, which I didn't mention in this talk. Our time is too limited for that. I thank you all for your attention, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Goodbye.